Uh, Still not on. There it goes. Okay. All right. Edit. And it's Joe Prince. And okay. Skiba.
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay. Let's see. Skib. There you are. Okay. Got it. And let me do the last one. Edit. All right. Okay, we're good.
So yeah, I've been friends with you for so long. I think since about 2013.
Well, I know, and
So
I know it's
yeah,
been, and then I kept getting y'all mixed up with this other couple who I think is going to be coming on pretty soon. I've been like pursuing them for a while. I know we tried to do it a couple of times or whatever. I can't remember because I get confused. I just remember the energy, and they have the same energy y'all do. It's really interesting.
ah,
And I didn't know that they were a couple. Like I didn't know y'all were until I think Joel. Not this time, but before Joel had we had
yeah,
exchanged messages. But yeah, it's good
yeah.
to see y'all, and thank you for coming in. And let me turn my mic down.
Thanks for having
Thanks for
us.
having us on the show. Yeah, we appreciate it.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah, yeah. I'm excited to because I know looking at your pictures. I mean, I can just tell that y'all have a certain chemistry, but also like looking at the pictures, like with the kids, and like it just fascinates me. Oh, and by the way, I got to say, your what do you call those?
My crystal grids.
The grids, yeah. You sent me that one time, and I used it a lot. I still have it on my computer. But
Oh,
yeah,
awesome.
yeah, I really like this.
That's
But
cool.
it intrigues me to be going through this transition we call ascension when you're a
Yeah.
couple with kids in the house. Like that
Oh,
just fascinates me. Like how do people do that? Because I had 6 kids, and I don't know what I would have done. It was just I don't know how you do it. So that's one of the things we might want to talk about. But yeah, so I don't know. I don't know if you guys want to just talk about did you wake up together? How did you meet?
um, no, we've been together just over 6 years.
Mm,
So I woke up in 2012, the end of 2012, like a lot of us. And I had the big shifts, like big dark night of the soul in about 2013.
uh-huh.
So we didn't meet until 2016, I think it was. So back then, the main thing that happened for me was I'd moved down to, it's about 2.5 hours south of where we are now. It was down near Bundaberg, and we were living on it was like an acreage in the middle of this sugarcane sort of fields around.
Mm,
And I had a full on experience which totally changed my whole life, which I know a lot of people on here have had. But it was really important. My best friend Wendy and we were out watching, I remember it because we were out watching the Geminoid meteor shower. It was in
uh-huh.
December 2012. And Wendy was the one that was all up on when these things were happening. So I happily said, yep, I'll watch it with you. And I'm pretty sure she had the Stephen Greer contact sort of apps as well. So she'd
Right.
been playing those tones and things. And yeah, it was just amazing. We had this massive, big circular ship, came down very low. It was probably about 100 meters at most
Wow.
above us. Yeah, it was like the size of a football field.
Really?
And yeah, it was huge. What we saw first was because we were watching the shower, and there was like we saw about 100 shooting stars. But before we saw that appear, we saw a massive one. It was like a big comet, and it was red and yellow, and it just streamed across the sky, and we were just like, "Oh my god, that's amazing!" And then in the distance, we saw this blinking light going like this across, and we said, "Oh no, that's a plane! That's a plane!" And then probably within a few minutes, then this ship appeared silently. It was sort of out of mist, and it was just appeared there. And then it dropped off this little one, which was a triangular shaped craft,
God.
which was like the size of a car. And then the big ship disappeared the way it appeared. And then this little one that was like a car, it sort of went over to the left. It was above us too. It was actually a bit lower, just sort of above the tree line. And the whole time it was there, we were just, now I know it was a download. It was like an energetic heart
Right.
download. It was just like the way people describe if they're touched by the hands of God or things like that. Like I
Yeah.
realized at the end I'd been streaming like tears of joy, and
Wow.
it was just totally changed us, both of us, I know. And then it sort of hovered there for about 20 minutes, and then it flew off down towards the ocean. And you could hear the jets. I remember it sort of going like that. You could hear the jets go.
Wow.
But the whole thing about it, like that, just completely changed my life. So my son's dad. So we've got Joel and I have two kids. Bodhi I had with a previous partner. Um, the next year, I left him. Just new career, moved house, like sort of what everyone's. I think a lot of people on Soulogy, you see it was like a dark night of the soul for me, but at the same time, it was the best thing that could happen.
Right.
And yeah, that was the most amazing thing that's ever happened to me, really, that experience. So that was just incredibly life-changing. And then I stayed down in that area for a couple more, for the rest of the year. And then I moved back up to Gladstone where we live now because I was a single mum and I needed support from my parents, and I got my old job back and things like that. So I did the shift back up to here where we live now. And then Joel and I met, how long? Yeah, 2016. So it was 3 years after that happened. Yeah, Joel and I met, and then yeah, no, kind of been together ever since, and had a daughter, and
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Who busted the who busted the move?
I think Kristen approached
She
me
did?
first.
She did.
Yeah, we actually met on an online dating site. So we chatted and then met up. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
we didn't really talk too much about the awakening stuff back then. I had a strong interest in paranormal stuff when I was younger. I didn't so much have an awakening until that 2013 period, but I just had a lot of experiences when I was a child and didn't really understand what it was. I was really interested in the way the world worked and what sort of happened behind the scenes of what goes on in everyday life. I used to ride to the library and read books about astrology, and when I was only like 6 years old, and I think had a lot of experiences with earthbound spirits when I was younger and seen them, and I think it was around that 2013 period as well. I ended up leaving my job and had an enormous amount of anxiety, like dark night of the soul. But I went down to New South Wales for a couple of years. So we're up in Queensland now, but went down south with my parents and pretty well spent the whole year just about in bed. I was really,
Wow.
it really buggered me. And through that period, I had a lot of different animals and different things appear in the room. And I think after I've seen, I think throughout that period, I'd seen like orbs and stuff too fly across the road with all sorts of crazy things like that. And it was when I met Kristen, I sort of shared those things with her immediately, and we sort of connected in that sense.
yeah.
But it wasn't until we sort of got together that something sort of happened, and it's sort of like everything intensified, didn't it? Like with what was going on in the house, the house at the time we were staying, and we had Jasmine only like 12 months after we met.
No, it was about 4 or 5 months. We felt
Yeah.
pregnant pretty early. We'd decided we both wanted to try. And I said, oh, it might happen fast. And it did within a month. So we had Jazzy. Yeah, it was pretty much sort of had the baby. And Joel, of course, had to get used to having Bodhi. Our son was 4.5 then. So he was pretty much plunged into fatherhood.
Yeah, I had no experience.
Quite quickly. But no, he's been really good. And yeah, and we've sort of grown a lot together. I think we were renting for a long time, like we bought a place now, but so we were in a fair few different rentals, and there was a lot of spirits and things like that. I've always sort of had that since about 18. But I've found since I've been with Joel, it's been amazing because one of his abilities is sort of clearing and helping move spirits on. So I've found that since we've been together, I haven't. I've kind of had a buffer there. It's like having my own sort of personal protector, which is nice. Yeah, so our kids see, like our daughter, she can see orbs at night sometimes come into a room. She can be sitting there and see these rainbow orbs.
Wow.
We can't see them. And then Bodhi as well. They both see, she can see spirits and things as well. Bodhi can see, he's actually seen like different aliens and things. Like once when he was just sitting in his room, sort of, he said it just walked out in the yard. This really tall, skinny thing.
What?
His long legs. Yeah, they're both like,
yeah.
they literally see things with their eyes. They can see things that we just go, oh, okay. But we believe them, like, and that's one thing I'm big on is always supporting them and, you know, never saying like that doesn't exist just because I can't see it, because I know growing up I know I blocked out a lot of my abilities because, you know, just not being believed or whatever. So yeah, I do think that the kids now, they just come in with these abilities just happening already, and it's quite amazing as a parent to, you know, hear them saying these things, especially when they're so little.
That's crazy. I mean, you're talking about it. Y'all are talking about it like it's just normal, which I guess it
Yeah.
is. I
Yeah.
guess that's what these families are bringing in, like your family and Elsa Dillon. You know what she talks about with her family. But
Yeah.
God, what about like just, you know, there's been so much talk about the fluctuations and movements and such of the masculine energy and the feminine energy, and the feminine's doing this and the masculine's doing that or not doing that or whatever. Do you
Yeah.
ever are y'all, does your personal dance have any correlation to what, are you even, do you even pay attention to what people write about that kind of stuff?
Um, yeah, you can answer if you want.
Yeah, so the masculine and feminine thing I found, for me personally and for Kristen, um, throughout a few years, probably between that 2016, after we met, we found that a lot of healing began. So there was a lot of processes of actually letting go of a lot of that. Uh, what do you call it?
Just trauma and things
Trauma,
we've been
yeah.
through, you know, and stuff from other partners. We'd both been in long-term relationships for 8 years and both been engaged to long-term partners, and that didn't eventuate, which is interesting. That was sort of parallel, but we've spent a lot of these 6 years because we had Jasmine so early on in the relationship. It feels as though we're just now getting to the point where we've worked through a lot of our stuff,
Yeah.
you know, as a couple, because we had so much both of us to release. So definitely the masculine, like I've noticed a bit how people have been talking how that's been rising lately, and I agree. I've found for myself for many years I was just taking photos of my grids, whereas now I've been pushed more to do videos and start talking about those grids. Even
Right.
though I'm not on the camera, at least it's like a step up for me to do that. And yeah, coming on your show, you know, just having the courage to sort of, yeah, just openly talk about things instead of keeping it hidden. I think I can see definitely for that, for sure.
So I would say, yeah, throughout that entire process of healing, I had a lot of victim mentality myself, having been diagnosed with a mental illness when I was younger, and then overcoming that. And at that time, when I decided to go off the medication I was taking was making me sick, I found a lot of these abilities I had when I was younger was started to turn back on.
Wow.
And throughout that process, I think coming out to men, you know, that I know, especially within just my daily life, I'm fairly open about things that happen behind the scenes, like with the ascension process, and explain to people the anxiety they feel on a daily basis is part of that.
Yeah.
I think something that'd be worth highlighting is that I think around at that 2016 period, we were getting bombarded a lot with different types of entities within the house. We think it may have been from things attached to our past, but particularly in 2017, we were getting attacked, I would say, on a daily basis, or I was personally. And I think it may have been some type of initiation on my behalf. So I sought out a teacher, his name was Nick Turner, and he helped me throughout that process. I had a lot of fear around that, and I believe that is what actually helped me get over the fear, is actually being attacked on a daily basis by different things that were trying to scare me and scare the kids and Kristen, because it was happening
God.
within the house. Yeah, so we would have dolls talking and stuff in the house, and all sorts of different things like that. A lot of banging, and I ended up just throughout my journey, I ended up meeting a few different really important key people in that process, because I wasn't sure what to do, because I was seeking out healers for support to help clear. It didn't matter what we did; they just kept coming back, and that's where Nick said, "You have to do the work on yourself. You both have to do the work on yourselves in order to overcome this. It's what it's all about." He said, "We can help clear them, but you have to basically work on self-love." It was probably around that time then that I started getting more assistance on the spirit, like on the astral planes, because I was able to see, go into like deep meditations, and could see things playing out and within weeks away, and could see my guides, and they could tell me different things that were about to happen, and having faith in them actually helping protect us. So they were a big key player for me. I have multiple different guides to protect, but one of them in particular that I was gifted, sometimes he can call on more guides for assistance when we need it to clear. Other times they're not there, and I have to do more work myself, which can be quite draining. But you have to be very grounded. So part of that process was I was gifted the grounding sticks by an Indigenous, like Aboriginal lady,
Wow.
and her husband, and we helped them. I think where it came about was there was a man in our house that had actually hung himself, and I was actually having visions of a man hanging, and I didn't know what to do, and the doors were slamming behind me, and for some reason I went down to a local business and was asking them for, do you know anyone who can help with this, and she gave me a lady's number, and it ended up being her nephew after we got talking. So she came around the house and assisted, and they were a big part of our learning too.
Yeah, she wasn't surprised at all. We met her and her partner, and because Joel's part Aboriginal himself, so they came around to the house, and she was very matter of fact. She said, "Oh, it was her nephew, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He hung himself," and she said, "Oh, yep, thank you for that." And then she gifted Joel a guide, an Aboriginal guide, and they were amazing to me, weren't they? Because
Far out.
she helped a lot, yeah. Because around that time when all that stuff was happening too, I'd been on antidepressants for 10 years, and Joel had been on all sorts of about 4 or 5 medications. And after meeting each other after a couple of years, we both detoxed off those medications. And I also believe that that's maybe part of why. I mean, we were living in different rental houses as well, so obviously they come with different spirits they can. But I do think that we were both going through a lot of processing and releasing stuff, and then it makes sense then that, your inner and your outer, that we were sort of, I guess, coming across some of these earthbound spirits and then passing things over. Because I've done it a little bit, but not as much as what Joel has done. So, yeah, but they were amazing, that couple, and she was so matter of fact. She said, "Oh, yes," and they took his spirit and gifted Joel the grounding sticks to help him. He was still coming off medications, And I've found the same thing since being off antidepressants. Like I definitely needed them at the time, but I just find that my just my
Clear.
energy and everything. It's just good at the
Yeah,
moment now for us to be off big pharma. you know.
you guys should write a book. I mean, this is like I mean, it's got so many different elements to it. So it sounds like I mean, it's just a beautiful story. A Getting off medication seemed to, I would imagine it assisted you in building a stronger connection because you both opened up more, and then of
Yes.
course you have this assistance, uh, from both the physical and the non-physical world, and the
Yep.
guidance. The guidance of you guys have to work on the self-love, right? Um,
Yes.
what about the third element, the actual human to human? Or let me ask it a different way. How did you how did you raise your self love? How did you raise your value for yourselves and therefore your relationship? Did you do the work together or did you do it separate? Joel mentioned meditation. Uh, and if you did it together, what kind of process did you use?
I think like we're both very much into. I've always been into self help books and things, and always been searching. And I think Joel is the same. Like always been looking and searching. So reading a lot of different things, but more so the last few years for me has been when you can meditate, because with young kids it's a bit tricky, but just connecting in with myself. I remember, I think the year Jazzy was 2, I made a pact that for a year I would do a crystal grid every day. So that was really good just to take. For me, that's the tools I use to connect in with the energies that are coming in and how to ground them for myself is by using the crystals and minerals. It's kind of like an artistic process, but it's using energy and then tapping into my intuition and connecting with my guides as well. I found that's been really helpful for me. And yeah, just I guess for me, the main thing is sort of that whole thing about unmasking, like, especially, just sort of not just being honest with yourself, allowing myself to feel emotions, not repressing them anymore. We go every Sunday to the beach with the kids and the dog and go for a big walk. So that's been important, as a family thing to get in nature. We try and do that a lot. Um, I've recently, like, I've gotten more crystal singing bowls and tuning forks, so we're having a play with those. So, and
How
the
cool is
sound
that?
healing.
So what,
Yeah.
I'm looking at your wall behind you too, with all the
Oh,
crystals
yeah.
and all the and
Yeah.
everything else. Like, and then you have the thing with your kids, and then you
Yeah.
have singing bowls. Does any of their friends ever come over to the house and go, "What the hell's going on here?" you know, or does anybody ever come over and go,
I'm, I'm sure, like, I don't really know. I try not to think what other people think of us, but I'm sure people think we're weird. Like, our whole family is neurodiverse. Like, my son's ADHD, Jazzy's just had an autism diagnosis, so I've been homeschooling her for a year. And in the process of learning about female presenting autism, I just sort of went, oh wow, I think I'm that too. So, and to me, to get the diagnosis, it's not about a label, it's about
no?
getting them support.
Yeah,
And she gets therapies now, which is covered by the NDIS, which is funding from the government. So
right.
um, it's interesting. I've just noticed that now I can look back, a lot of people I've connected with, I'm like, oh, I think they're probably neurodiverse too. And
Yeah, the
I wonder about star
y-
seeds in general, whether we are all
yes,
mostly neurodiverse because we
that's
just
very
think
true.
different.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
I've talked to too many people, and many of them parents talking about their kids. Uh, yeah, that seems to be a human definition characteristic of a starseed is ADHD, autism,
yeah,
Asperger's. I mean, so
yeah.
these are actually not mental disorders. These are actually
No,
signs of a lit human being, you know?
yes. Yeah, I like that one, that ADHD, attention dialed into a higher dimension.
Exactly.
That's the one to use, with, yeah.
Exactly.
And that's why I say to the kids, like, never be ashamed of that. That's actually a positive, you know. It's just about accepting yourself and then realizing that, you know, might do things a bit differently. School might look a bit different, you know, things like that.
Well, I
Um,
think those will actually become more normal than abnormal, and what we thought was normal will become
yes.
abnormal. I gotta tell you, I love Joel. I love your shirt. I think it's awesome. I love the colors and I love what's on it. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah,
No wonder your
Kristen, only,
neighbor. No wonder your neighbors think you're weird.
no, I haven't talk about the weird stuff to people. We often will go to the beach and video the BT craft and stuff as they come down. But
Yeah, that's, yeah.
yeah, they'll turn up. But it's been interesting going back to the healing process. I've found that it's been like we'll go through a period like, oh yeah, everything's going great, everyone's getting along well, everything in life is really smooth, and then all of a sudden you'll get the energy sort of really increase really high, where you go through those days where you're really tired and things trigger you more than usual, um, and then the challenges then come because obviously when that happens, I found it like purges. Like when the Earth's actually doing that, it's actually purging like some sort of negativity as well. And that's at that time when we're having these purges, I find a lot of these negative entities are flying around. Will come in and they'll try and destroy relationships, and I've seen it amongst friends' relationships as well. So throughout that period, I tend to find, or we both do, we try to stay very grounded and
Yeah.
tethered because through those periods you may think that there may be a problem with the relationship or each other, but in fact what's just happening is like the ascension, and we're just going through it together like the kids and ourselves. There's always someone in the house that has an issue or sees something in here that shouldn't be here, and we have to clear it off. And we will see like the Kristen's guides come through, like in Kristen's room. We had some. It's weird because some parts of the house there's a lot more energy than others, and it's like they're like mini portals. And when that happens, I'll tend to go and sleep in those rooms just to see what happens and what comes through, and then I'll actually start seeing different things happening and unfolding. And
Yeah, Joel
yeah,
tried. Jazzy was talking about these rainbow orbs in a room, and one night Joel was in there and he tried to take photos because she's saying they're here now. And he took a photo of the corner of the room, and it's this really clear guide. She's sort of side on. You can see like all her features and things, which we put up. It's actually
Wow.
that guide there,
yeah,
Wanda
I
Shipton.
can't see
Is
it
that the
right now.
picture?
Yeah, so
Is
that
that
guy
it?
there, I've had a lady called Wanda Shipton. She's a psychic and an artist, and I've had my guides drawn from her over the years. I've had them done how many? 6 different times. And she draws the guide that comes through the strongest. And
Wow.
this was the last one I had done by her, and this is actually my Pleiadian guide. And it was interesting because when I had this appointment with her, I thought like I hope my Pleiadian guide comes through, and she did. And I first connected with her back, I think, when I was 20, and I heard her name was Esmerelle, and in the picture she said her name was Lazel, which is pretty close.
Wow.
And she confirmed to me, she said, you know, she helps you when you're doing your gritting and things. Um, and that was the other thing. When I saw that craft in 2012, the days afterwards, I was drawing all these symbols and writing and things, and I didn't know anything about the different races and that. I went looking on the internet, and the patterns and what I was drawing was exactly like this Pleiadian site. And then I was guided strongly to start, because I'd collected crystals for so many years, but just not done anything with them. I was just guided to start doing these grids, and also to run the group that I have on Facebook, Unity Universe, just to
Right.
have it as a sharing space. They were the two main things that they said to do. So, and then it's been interesting over the years. It's to see like crystal gridding getting a lot bigger now and a bit more mainstream. But when I was first doing it, I don't really think, as far as I knew, there wasn't much out around that. So I'm sure people thought I was loopy, like arranging rocks, like. But I just used to say to him, like, some people do jigsaw puzzles. This is my way of relaxing, you know. If you don't want to go into it too deeply, it's like, yeah. So anyway, this guide here, this picture, this is the one that Joel captured the photo of in Jazzy's room.
Wow.
Yeah, and she's really clear, and she appeared. So Nick Turner is a man we regularly both go to probably once a year for sessions, and he said to both of us that guide in the photo, he said that is my guide, and he said she's appearing as a child because she didn't want to scare Jasmine. So he said in that photo, see if I can find it.
I first found her actually sitting behind us. Actually walked out of my when I was actually sleeping one night. Actually started to astral project and actually come out and come into the kitchen, and I looked down and I seen her sitting under the cupboard there.
Where's the camera? I'll try and hold it up.
You bring it this way, the other way. Oh yeah.
Okay, so you can't really. It's glitchy, but see, she's put the side on.
I can see it.
Yeah.
Wow. And so your daughter was seeing rainbow orbs, and you took a picture, and that's what came out.
That's what. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, she's seen the rainbow orbs coming through, and she said, "Daddy, because when we were going to the beach a lot more, I started to see a lot more ETs on the astrals, other than spirits. It seemed to have changed to the Pleiadians, and also it's communicating with them. And at that same time, Jasmine also said, "Oh, Daddy, I'm always seeing these rainbow orbs come in," and she was always telling me about it because I'd go into the room at night when she was scared, and she'd go, "Oh, Daddy, one's on your nose," and so I couldn't see. I literally couldn't see them. I started taking photos, and that's when I spotted that one. But at the same time, I think that Kristen's guide in particular was in that side of the room for a reason, because we found there was a lot of negative energy coming from next door at that time. So we're really putting a lot of work into that side of the house. But yeah, once we had the confirmation it was Kristen's guide, we were both pretty amazed by that. And then Jasmine, for a while there, wouldn't go into the room. She was a little bit scared knowing the guide was there, but eventually she sort of built her confidence back up.
I told her that the guide was down in the garden, and then just the other day she said, "I want the guide back in my room."
So they were definitely coming there. So if we went to the beach and did, there's areas that we go to where it's sort of like vortexes or something there. The energy's really high, and we'll get a lot of amazing experiences happen. It's good for grounding and also clearing a lot of trauma. And it's usually nights after that happens, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this area, like Gladstone itself, is an industrial city. So the energy here is probably not the best, and I've grown up here, moved away, come back many times. And I believe it's to help this area because it needs it. So there's beaches and things about 30 minutes south that are quite nice, but in the actual town, it is an industrial city. So I find it interesting. I've often thought what would happen if we moved somewhere like Sedona, where there are vortexes and things.
Well, I
want to come today.
Well, you guys are Sedona. It sounds like. Okay, so you mentioned the beach, and you mentioned a lot the ET, the Star Family presence, and communications, I guess. It's I don't know. It just feels like to me that you work in collaboration with these aspects. Is this like something that goes on every week? I mean, you go to the beach every week, but I mean, like you're talking about taking pictures of ships. Do you have like, I don't know, I guess like what's the synopsis of that? Like what's a summary of, if you could summarize your relationship with these aspects, what comes of it? I mean, obviously there's some guidance there for y'all, but do you get any kind of messages in terms of like what you're talking about? Like you're there to hold the light or even collective information?
Yes. We find there's one spot we go to stargaze and things, and they probably the last 2 years, every time we go we'll see them. They're not low in the sky, but they're like the round ones that move and go down and up and around, and they always turn up for us there. Prior to that, I went to a ceremony at the beach a bit further away where two ladies, they did a cacao ceremony and a sound healing, And when we were doing the meditation, I just lay there looking at the sky, and the whole time I could see the same sort of ships doing that. Um, then I went to a meditation the end of last year, and then they started up, and I said to the group we were with, look, there they are. So it was good because there was about 7 or 8 of us, and everyone could see them. So they were just very small in the distance, but I believe that those must be our star family, you know, because they just seem to turn up at those spots when we go there.
Wow.
And for me, the message is just to keep, because we've got kids, you know, you just keep doing your daily thing and just bringing in as much light as you can, and, you know, acts of kindness. And I don't get really messages about what will happen in the future or things like that the way some people do, but it's more working with energies, I guess, and I feel people's emotions quite intensely, even from a distance. But yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, so from my take on it, I've had multiple different ET races come into the room at night and do different things at times when we were going through difficult situations and needed healing and support. Um,
You should describe some of them.
so some of the ones that come through, I couldn't actually particularly tell you their names or where they're from, and when they talk to me, I can't even understand what they're talking about. So because their language, they're not talking to me in English, they're talking to me in some other language, but I get the telepathy come through, so they'll actually be talking to me, but I understand what they say from the telepathy aspect of it, or they'll put pictures in my head or put up pieces of paper like scrolls with things written on it. So one time in particular, I was unsure on who these craft were when we went to the beach one night. They tend to really enjoy going to, like, seeing us when the kids are with us also. But yeah,
they interact, don't they?
Yeah.
Like if we
This
say,
tend to
can you
believe
power
that.
up, they'll do a power up, or the
Yeah.
kids will say, can you go down, and they'll go down, and it's like an interaction, like they really are
they play with
wanting
the
us
kids.
to know. Yeah, they play with the kids, they want us to know they're there, sort of thing. And this is sort of, they're not close like that one I saw in 2012. It's up in the sky. So what we want to do is invest in a good camera so we can get some really good shots, you know, because but I've got a shot there that I took. I was just taking photos at the beach one day, and my guide said take a photo of the sky. And when I came home, it was like a silver craft, and you can see it, and then it pops out this little thing. And that was bizarre because it was glary. I didn't know anything was there, but I just took the photo, and that was just on my phone. And you were really excited, hey? You said, "Oh wow."
Yeah. So I find the shamanic stuff that I've done a lot of, and together with Kristen, ties in a lot with the ETs, and they also tie in with the Yowies as well. Like my guide is like a little fella, which is like a part of the Yowie family. I've had Yowie experiences at that beach as well, and like actually seen one and had them come around me in the morning, and I've actually felt them as well in meditations. But they all seem to tie together. But one thing I've actually found is after we do go to the beach or go to these, I actually call them places of power out of Carlos Castaneda's books. But
Right.
when we come home, it's usually 2 or 3 nights after that, after I've done the real heavy grounding, that comes in big waves. Like you might go for 2 or 3 weeks without seeing anything in dreams, and I just try to stay grounded and tethered and sort of actually keep it as like a bit of a recovery period to sort of build the energy back up in intense periods, and then it just hits again. And there'll be like I'll go to a room. It's sort of like I'll meet halfway, so I won't in particular go to a craft or anything, but I might go to like a boat or a ship and actually be like on a boat that's going through the water, and they'll all be on the boat, and they'll be Pleiadian looking beings. And I'll start the telepathy then saying that like it'd just be small things like, you know, you used to be a pilot, you know, in your past life, and you know, we're here to
Yeah,
help.
Joel was a pilot on a ship, like on a craft. And he does cartooning, like he's very good at that in this life. And I said, that makes sense because you would have a past life like that.
Yeah, so
I've noticed since you,
the channel.
Joel did a lot of training with, is it Payne Endov?
Pene Endov.
Pene Endov, and it was all around And I noticed your ability since then just completely skyrocket, like being able to astral
That's
travel
more
and
the
see,
yeah.
actually start to see all these beings as he's drifting to sleep,
Wow.
which has been quite amazing. Like the last year, the shifts in Joel have been amazing to see.
Yeah, so as a part of that, when the ETs come through, it's quite bizarre because they'll show me different places in around town. I'm like, where's this place? I've never seen it before. I'll be in a room there and they'll be communicating with me. But then months later, we'll actually go to that room and the view of the ocean, everything will be the same and the layout of the room will be the same. So I'll say to Kristen, oh, the ETs come through that door there. So they're actually showing us aspects of the future or things or events that are actually coming that are important
Yeah, they show
for
you.
us.
Yeah.
And then I try to bring that back in to the family. But it's not only just about what the ETs are doing. I know that they guide us on a daily basis and assist us in what we do. But essentially, I think what Kristen and I are doing now is, like Kristen said, we've had all these experiences and we've gone through all these times of intense fear and releasing a lot of trauma, and then having periods of quiet times, and then it builds up the intensity again. That whole time, Kristen's been doing her grids, and I've been doing work as well. And Jasmine and Bodie both bring work into the family as well. So we work as a team as such. But I think in the next 12 months to 2 years, we're going to start doing more stuff like for the community. So for myself, I've started doing mental health talks with people. I don't really go in depth to 5D stuff, but I sort of explain to them how anxiety works and how you can actually clear yourself and feel better. And I did one recently in front of about 500 people, so that was
Wow.
daunting. But
Yeah, he works in the industry, so very, mostly male dominated, a lot of quite conservative engineer,
yeah, so that's been a challenge.
tradesmen sort of types. Yeah.
So I try to do the meditation and then step out of my comfort zone to really, that's a part of the healing as well. Kristen and I both want to work together doing something through healing, like with the community in the future.
Yeah.
Like, starting pretty soon, really.
Yeah, I've done a few. I've done a few crystal gridding classes. One was about 2 years ago. It was like a paid event I did for kids, and then I did one last year for the mums group that I was in for free. Like, just how to put a layout of crystals on you and how to like check your chakras and use wands and then do the gridding and things, which was fun. The main thing, yeah, and the kids loved it. Like they just lie there. It's just natural to them. They just think, oh, they just love all that sort of thing. The main thing at the moment is we're trying to get a healing space for me because our house is quite small. So we're looking at putting a room in so I can actually, because I do work as well with people, lying down, placing the crystals, doing the work in person. The gridding is just a way to do it via distance.
Right.
So, yeah, and then I want to incorporate the sound healing and that sort of thing as well. So it's just a matter of building the space at our place and then be able to go into it full force. And
So, how old are these children?
so the workshop I did, they ranged from there was 6 of them. So they were from about 6 to about 12.
Okay.
We did that one. And then the one last year, it was from, we had 2-year-olds up to
God.
about 12-year-olds.
And-
Yeah, and that was out in the Botanic Gardens. It was quite a big one. So I think we had about 30-something people.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, that was,
And
it was a lot of
the
fun.
kids in your house, how old are they?
So Bodhi will be 11 next month, and Jasmine's 5.5.
And they both see things. It's just part of their natural life.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we try to encourage that as well. We don't play it off.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
Bodhi can see different. The way he explains it, it's like beings and things, but he can sense spirits as well. And Jazzy is the same, so she can see those orbs with her eyes. She sees those usually around 2 or 3 in the morning when she'll wake up at night. She used to come in really scared about it, but once we told her no, that's like a good thing, she actually really likes them now. So she's got over that fear,
God.
and it's such a shame you can't see them, Mummy.
Well,
She's like, I feel Sorry for you.
She can see us. She knows what's coming as well, though. She's psychic too.
Yeah, she's quite amazing. Like last year, no, it was this year for her birthday. I had to go into Kmart quickly to get a few things for a party. It was the day before, and out of the whole shop, we walked past these, like, it was an outdoor, these stepping things to stand on, connected by ropes. She looked at me, she pointed to it, and she said, "I am getting these tomorrow, Mummy." And I had bought them. They were at home, and I know she hadn't found them. And I just thought, far out. And just recently, she told Joel, I think it was 2 or 3 days before, she hadn't lost any teeth. She said, "I'm going to lose a tooth." And then 2 or 3 days later, her and her brother were playing. She had a toy in her mouth, and she asked him to pull it. And the next day, that tooth had fallen out. So it's just little things. She's always, saying things before they happen. So
they'll tend to see the spirits or beings around the house as well, and then 2 or 3 nights later, when I'm in that theta state, just as you fall asleep. So, and then I start to see around the house. I actually see some of these beings they're talking about. They're actually identical to what they actually notice, and they'll see them like while they're eating dinner or walking around. And if we go to the park or something, they will say, "Oh, one of them's followed us home."
Yeah, like they wouldn't say it every day, but probably every sort of few weeks they'll see something, or So there's just always, it's interesting.
It's no real big deal to them at all.
No.
And the amazing thing is when I've talked to, like the last few years when I've gone off on medication, I've still seen social workers, psychologists, etc. And I've actually been open to them and told them exactly what's happening. And I just said, "Look, I don't have psychosis because other people are seeing it as well." And they actually all believe me. Every single
professionals.
Yeah, every single professional, like university trainer I've spoken to, have all believed me, and they've just been absolutely blown away. I actually turned around and said, "You're not the only person that's come forward and said that. We're actually starting to believe it." And the amazing thing is with the autism, it's called the ADOS assessment. I had one done recently. The lady actually told me that a lot of the autistic kids that come through have these amazing, talk about these things that sound like shamanic journeys, like in the middle world and upward. And they've got all these different characters. And I actually said to her, I said, "Oh, they sound like shamanic journeys." And I said, "Really?" She said, "Oh, these are the books that sort of describe the things that they're talking about." And she gave me some books, and I started to look through it. I was actually helping this lady and actually explaining to her that these are actually all journeys these kids are actually experiencing. So it's actually they're starseeds. So they just don't fit into normal society, but we're getting bigger in numbers now. But it's just it's like a one size fits all society, and we're trying to navigate our way through it.
But I do think it's changing.
Yeah.
I do think it is shifting, with the ascension, and as more of these kids come in, and more of us oldies speak out about our experiences, I think it helps normalize it for others then.
Yeah. I think it's just becoming. It's like you can't keep the top on it. It's just. For every counter move, apparent counter move or suppressive move, it just makes it worse. It just makes it. You know what I mean? Like even the whole ADHD and the Asperger's and the other one. It's obvious these children are special. They've got their foot in another world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're kind of like bridging the world, really, right?
That's it.
The old and the new. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, it's just not spoken about openly amongst professionals, but it's just interesting to actually hear their thoughts on it when they actually go, "No, we actually know there's something going on, and we don't understand what it is." And Mary Rodwell, obviously, I've seen you talking to Mary a few times. She lives probably an hour south from us. She's had those conversations too with professionals, and I think everyone's well aware of now with kids coming through.
You guys should have a conversation with Mary Rodwell.
Yes,
She would love to talk to you. I know she talked to after we did a couple of shows with Elsa Dillon. She's done several videos with Elsa. I know she has. She
Yeah,
would
no,
be.
I think I reached out to her probably 8 years ago, but I think she was doing tours and things, so I didn't hear
Yeah,
back. So it might be worth, yeah,
yeah, yeah.
contacting her again.
She would love to talk to you. I know she would. God, I was going to ask you something. Like, so so with the children. Well, no, let me go back to the because that's a whole other. We have to do another show. We have to do another show and talk about this, but like, okay, so I'll stay with that. So with the children, I mean, I guess really they're homeschool. I mean, so, but like, do they feel like they're different than other kids? Like their
Well,
house is.
our oldest isn't homeschooled. He's at a regular school, but I have homeschooled him for a year in the past.
Uh huh.
Our youngest at the moment's homeschooled, but she'll be trying to go to a regular school next year. But if she can't handle it, because we started her this year, she was a bit young, then I will homeschool her. But she's keen to give it a try. I think, yeah, Bodhi, our oldest one, he definitely feels different. He I think he's very well liked at school, but I think he does struggle at times. Like he's that age now where he's wanting to play football and things
Mm-hmm.
like that, and you know, and he does. But I think he's sort of he can get along with everyone, but at the same time, I guess he struggles to have those people that connect with him on a deep level. And I said to him, mate, you know, you might always feel a bit like that until you find the other ones like you.
Right.
Um, you know, because I felt like that through school too. You know, you sort of, I could fit in, but half the time, you know, I'd be elsewhere in my mind, or,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I think a lot of us
so
here can
he,
relate to that.
yeah, yeah. So and then Jazzy, I don't think she really notices at the moment. She's so young. She will go up and talk to anyone. So if a kid's shy and she goes up immediately and is talking to them, she'll sort of say like, "Why are they not saying hello if they're just standing there, sort of shy?" And I sort of try and explain to her that not everyone is as outgoing and
Hmm.
able just to talk just like that. But yeah,
Throughout Bodie's experiences this year at school, from what he's told me, is quite similar to both our experiences as well. He tends to have other kids try to compete with him with different things, and he doesn't really understand why, or go out of their way to try and upset him at times. And he's quite sensitive with that. But after talking with Nick Turner about it, like he has that sort of energy that other people want, and they don't understand why. And
Right.
so
Right.
they're trying to compete over something that they don't even know exists. They just know that something is there, and he has this has something about him that gives off a lot of loving energy to other people, and people
yeah,
really like him. He's very popular, and so they tend to get a little bit jealous with him, I think, and
Yeah.
some of the football
go out of
players,
his
yeah,
way to sort of try to upset him. And he, but other than that, yeah, I think he does spread a lot of light and love into the school. Like he's always giving the cleaners like little gifts and says hello to everyone. He's very polite, and he goes out of his way to really make sure that everyone isn't feeling left out.
yeah. He
And
went through sadly abuse from his biological dad. So um, yeah, so he's he's sort of learnt the hard way how it feels, you know,
Yeah.
be on that receiving end. So he's very it's very mature for his age, and yeah, I think he'll be like, I just know he already is amazing, and he's been through more than he should have had to, but he's pretty strong, I think, now because of it. Hey,
He has a lot
yeah,
of he has a lot of support too.
yeah,
he definitely likes to challenge the norm as well, though, he doesn't.
yeah, he does, yeah,
He
definitely.
if anything doesn't quite like look quite right with him at school, he's like, "Oh, I'm never going to use this stuff. I don't know why I'm bothering with it."
Oh yeah,
Yeah, it's
school,
like,
yeah. The whole school program is like, oh, what a waste of time, you know. And it's like, I know, mate, I know. But at the same time, we homeschooled him for a year, and he missed that daily, you know.
Yeah.
Even though we got meetups and stuff, he missed that daily thing with the
Yeah.
other kids. So it's just a matter of, you know, just getting through it. And I said to him, once you're out of school, you know, as you get into the higher grades, you'll be able to choose more of the subjects you want to do, and
Yeah. Yeah.
you know,
My
and then do what you want. Like,
My second to the youngest, because we start the last 4 years are in we call it high school, and
yeah,
it starts in ninth grade, so they would be let's see 12, 30, 40. Yeah, so they'd be 14 going into it. You know,
okay,
there's I think 14 going into it. First day of school, and she's an old soul, old grandmother. I did have similar things happen with her. She was the only one, pretty much.
yeah,
It happened a little bit around the house and stuff with all of them,
yeah,
but as far as like the really intense stuff, like things that were definitely in the room, waking up with bruises, all that stuff, seeing ships. Her and I have seen ships. But the first day she
wow,
went, she because I was a single dad at the time, and I was doing Soulogy. I had just started, it was back in the day, and so when
yeah, yeah,
they would come home in the afternoon, I would be in the kitchen. So I was starting that routine because and I never forget. First day of school, she walks in and she just told me straight up
yeah,
everything that like your kid probably said. She's like, Dad, this is a they're basically like indoctrinating us. They're telling us the stuff. It's not even. I mean, she summed the whole thing up, and I thought, oh my God,
yeah. She's
she's gonna.
just pinned it.
Yeah, on the first day, the very first day, I'm like, oh my God. But
Yeah, you can't place this kid. You're very switched on.
well, and those two little ones. I mean, I don't really, I never really think about it. But I'm now that I'm talking to you, because
Yeah,
both of them didn't take the conventional route.
yeah,
She went to work. She left the home at 15.
yeah.
Rebellious and doing her own thing, and she takes care of herself to this day. But and
Wow.
the other one, perfect college material. I mean, just super brilliant. She said, Dad, I'm not going to college. I want to be a
Yep.
movie director and a
Awesome.
art curator. And she's now running an art gallery at 20 years old. So
Wow.
these
That's
young kids
amazing.
are incredible. They really are.
Yes.
Guy,
Yep.
I don't know how many households are around this world like yours, but there's got to be a significant number.
Yes,
And
I
you're,
agree.
yeah, I mean, there has to be. It has to be. Especially for some reason, I would think down there in Australia, because if I look at the demographics of Soulogy, top 10 cities in the world, I think five of them are in Australia. And
Wow.
Wow.
it's always
Okay.
blown my mind. It's always blown my mind because the overall percentage of the demographics might be like 10% of the U.S. or something, right? And I'm
Yeah,
talking
that's
about,
it.
but they have the highest number, many of the highest numbers in, I'm talking Brisbane, Queensland, the way they group
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
Even
That's
Adelaide's in
awesome.
the top 10. But
Oh, wow.
yeah, it's crazy, right? Wow, we'll have to do this again sometime. I would love
Yeah,
to
that
do
sounds
that.
good.
I'd love to do that and even have y'all on individually if you want to, because you both have a wealth of information. We could do your crystal grids, and you could, like, I watch your videos from time to time, and
Oh, cool. Thank you.
yeah, and Joel, you have just a whole bunch of stuff as well to unpack. I have all
Mm.
kinds of questions. I would go longer tonight, but I've already gone like 5 hours, and I've got another three or four
That's
hours.
all good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, we've sort of briefly sort of gone over some things that happened, but haven't gone too much in depth there. Just a
Yeah.
general overview of things.
It's been really nice to talk to you. Hey.
Yeah, no,
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
been great.
Well, it's really interesting because for me, like with both of you, and even talking to you now, like how does that work? What does that look like? What does it feel like? Because you've just got this whole plethora of experiences between you both and the family, and it's all connected. So
Yeah.
I would love to like get an update too, because I would imagine like Joel's talking like in a year or two we're going to do this and that, and but I would imagine you're going to get more information sooner than
Mm.
later about what's all this connection. You know.
So
Yes.
probably,
Yep.
probably a key thing that's happened recently. You feel comfortable sharing about.
Oh, we'll do that
Okay,
next
yeah,
time.
we'll do it another
Next
time.
one.
Yeah, generally I tend to go into like a shamanic journey and try to find the answers on things. And I just say to Kristen, I don't really know what's going to come through. We'll just wait and see what happens at the other side. and it's through the actual journey itself. I may not really receive too much information, but usually what will happen is someone will actually come through on the other side or somewhere, and they'll have information for me, and they'll actually connect after the journey, and then for a period, a few hours after that, I'll go through periods of having these micro sleeps where I'll be just sitting there wide awake, and I'll black out for like 3 or 4 seconds, and I'll actually see the spirit come through and tell me who they are and what they're there for, and then I'll
Wow.
wake back up again and start channeling. So there's different aspects of it, but some of these things really surprise me, because you can read as many books as you like, but until you actually go in there and do it, you make mistakes. And sometimes you get it wrong, but until you actually get in there and do the work and constantly chip away at it, it's just sort of really hard to explain it.
Yeah, that's why I'd love to spend an hour talking about. So, because anyway, well, listen, I really appreciate you guys are lovely, and all blessings to you and your family, and thank you so much for coming on. And I definitely would love to do it again, down the road. And thank you, just thank you very much for what you're doing.
Thank you very much. Yeah, really appreciate it. It's been great to talk
thank
to
you for
and thanks for all you do on Soulogy as well. I've watched the videos over the years, it's just helped so much hearing other people's stories, and especially when the energies get tough and everything seems a lot, It's
Yeah.
good to have your show to watch. Yeah.
That's great. I'm glad to hear that. Thank you so much. Y'all take care.
All right.
Okay.
Todd, you